So this past week, we got multiple examples of Donald Trump's very clear and obvious cognitive decline, potentially mental illnesses, potential neurological issues. All of it was on full display. It was on display on Truth Social. It was on display in his interview with Sean Hannity. It was on display in his discussion with the New York Economic Club. But if all you did was watch corporate media over the last week, you didn't hear any of it, right? Because the corporate media tells you, oh, Trump rambled. Oh, he jumbled his words. Oh, he, misspoke. That's what the media is telling you. Over at Salon.com, Heather Digby Parton wrote a phenomenal article. And I want to read you parts of it because it reiterates things that I have been saying now for weeks about how the media just seems to be giving Donald Trump a free pass when they damn sure didn't do it for President Biden. I mean, think about this. And this is how Digby actually begins her piece here. She talks about the fact that President Biden months ago mixed up the president of Mexico, calling him the president of Egypt. For days on end, the media talked about that one thing. Of course, then he did it with the president of Ukraine, months later. Oh my God, we got a week of headlines about that. This man is just mentally gone. We got the Robert Hur report earlier this year. Biden didn't know the exact year that his son died. He knew the date, by the way, and then of course he immediately remembered the year. But when that came out, it was, oh my God, this guy is too mentally gone to be president. Get him out of office now. All across the corporate media. Then, of course, we had the debate. We all know how the media covered that. And more than just covering that, they also talked about the fact that, is there a cover-up at the White House? Have they been covering up a mental problem for years now? We don't know, but we got to find out. Meanwhile, Trump does the exact same things every single week to a larger degree than Biden does, and not a peep. So let me read you part of this piece from Digby here. Donald Trump has been speaking nonsense and spouting gibberish on the campaign trail, and the media is covering for him by pretending that his verbal incontinence actually makes sense or by ignoring it altogether. Yes, there's been some mordant chuckling in the media over his bizarre comments about the late great Hannibal Lecter and his meandering tales about electric boats and shark attacks. Those stories are all delivered with a twinkling eye roll as if to say, oh, that wacky Trump, there he goes again, as if it's just a funny little anecdote apropos of nothing. And it's true that he's always done this to some extent. His speeches and press conferences are surreal windows into his undisciplined, puerile mind. Despite his regular protestations that he's, really smart, he communicates at a fourth grade level, the lowest level of any of the past 15 presidents going back to Hoover, and uses the same handful of words and phrases over and over again to cover for the fact that he never really has any idea what he's talking about. But Trump's getting worse, and the press is failing to properly report it. Over the past couple weeks, the problem has gotten more acute, and there has been very little recognition of it. Because political reporters have normalized his unfit intellectual and emotional characteristics for so long, they're just continuing to cover him as if they are perfectly ordinary, even though he is rapidly deteriorating. Now again, all of those are things that I have been saying for weeks now, and Digby has too, and Chauncey DeVega at Salon.com as well, and many others have. But what's really starting to piss us off is the double standard in the media. They were right to cover most of what they did with Biden. After the debate, no excuses. Did they have to go as far as to jump into the conspiracy theories that the White House is covering something up? No, that's bullcrap. The Hur report, that was dumb. But the more he mixed up people's names, it's this is kind of becoming embarrassing for the country because he's speaking with foreign leaders, calling them the wrong name. That's a problem. You don't want that. So those two issues, the names, and of course after the debate, totally understandable. The conspiracy theories and the Hur report, total BS. Trump confuses names all the time. When Biden does it, they say it's a mental illness. When Trump does it, it's not a big deal. And then Trump downplays it and he's like, no, I totally do it on purpose. And the media's like, oh, well, that makes sense then. We don't have to cover you. No, he's insane. And then his narcissism, which is also a classifiable thing in psychology, that prevents him from being able to tell the truth about it, which again, look in your DSM-5, guys, and you're going to see it right there. But Digby continues. It's the truly demented and or incoherent blather that's going unremarked upon, and there is no excuse for it. She says she already wrote about his stunning declaration at the Moms for Liberty event, where he says that the kids are getting the transgender surgeries at school. But in the write-ups of the event, in all the big papers, it wasn't even mentioned. Instead, we got headlines like, quote, Trump questions acceptance of transgender people as he courts his base at Moms for Liberty gathering, or a headline that read, Can Moms for Liberty save Trump? That's how the media covered it. She then talks about the New York Economic Club meeting, talking about the memorable moment came when he answered a question about what specific legislation he planned to propose to deal with the crisis in childcare by spewing an incoherent string of words that sounded like a fourth grader giving a book report of a book he didn't read. He clearly had no idea about childcare, and so he reverted to the only economic policy he's ever known, tariffs, the cure-all for every economic ill. And, she continues, here's how the New York Times wrote that mess of a response up. After his speech, Donald Trump was asked how he might address rising child care costs. In a jumbled answer, he said he would prioritize legislation on the issue, but offered no specifics and insisted that his other economic policies, including tariffs, would take care of child care. That's how the New York Times wrote it up on Friday morning. He kind of jumbled things a little bit. And, he didn't really give us any specifics, but, that's Trump, right? That's what we get. Infuriating. And that's the New York Times, right? The number one paper in the damn country, not once mentioning this isn't normal. This is weird. Hell, you don't even have to call it a mental illness, okay? You don't have to call it a neurological disease. You don't have to go as far as some of the mental health experts that you should be talking to have said, calling it dementia. You could just say weird. We're still okay with just using that. The bare minimum you could do is call it weird. And you couldn't even do that. He just jumbled it. That's it. Yeah. Move on, folks. Nothing to see here. The man's brains are clearly not mashed potatoes. I'll continue with a little more from Digby. Trump's policy speech in the New York Economic Club should have been reported as a train wreck, but the media covered for him as they so often do. He has the whole press corps acting as his ghostwriter, sanitizing his babble for the public, but Joe Biden and Kamala Harris aren't so lucky. They have to campaign and govern in a world where they're held to the standards that requires a president to be able to demonstrate his or her fitness for the presidency. There is a much higher bar, unfairly, for the Democrats. But it's not unfair because the Democrats shouldn't have to meet that bar. No, they should. But so too should the other side. When they make insane statements, when they clearly don't know who they're even running against, we need to talk about cognitive decline. We need to talk about mental illnesses. We need to talk about neurological diseases. And they're not. The media has failed you. And they continue to fail you. And they do so to the threat of the entire country. Donald Trump is a mentally ill individual, in my opinion. And by the way, also in the opinion of mental health professionals. That's what I'm basing my opinion on. I'm listening to the people that are much smarter than me and know a lot more about the issue. If the rest of the press did the same, this coming November, this election wouldn't even be close. But the media is not doing it, so most of this country will never even know about it. Hi, everyone. This here is little Athena. And Athena would like to know why you haven't subscribed to Fair and Balanced yet. So please, don't let Athena down. Subscribe today.